You brought something to my attention, and it's just incredibly sad.
Yeah.
And it's about Brett Gardner, the former Yankee,
Right.
and his family.
Yeah.
And this news broke on social media on March 23rd.
It did. And the report we have is from E! News.
Right.
And it basically just confirms the details that Brett Gardner and his wife shared,
Okay.
which is that their 14-year-old son, Miller, has passed away.
Yeah, it's just devastating.
Yeah.
And they were on a family vacation when this happened.
Right.
And he reportedly fell ill.
Yeah.
So, I think when you hear something like this,
It's tough.
it really does. It stops you in your tracks.
It really does.
And as you requested, this deep dive is going to focus on what this report tells us.
Yeah.
And it's stark and difficult piece of news.
It is.
And there isn't a lot of additional information available beyond what's been shared by the family
That's right.
and confirmed here in this report.
Exactly. And I think, what's important for us in this moment is to really acknowledge the weight of this news based purely on the information that has been made public.
Okay.
And it underscores a very raw and profound human experience.
It does. So let's just lay out for everybody listening exactly what this report tells us.
Yeah.
Former Yankee outfielder Brett Gardner and his wife
Right.
made this incredibly difficult announcement on social media on March 23rd.
Right.
And that was that their 14-year-old son, Miller, had passed away.
Right.
And the context is that this happened after Miller became ill while the family was on vacation.
Right.
It's a very sharp and sudden reminder of just how fragile life can be.
Well, and what's so fascinating about this is even in the face of such sadness, the act of sharing this publicly, it's a deeply personal tragedy. And the decision to announce it in this way, I think speaks volumes.
Absolutely.
Though we can only speculate as to their reasons.
You're absolutely right. It does make you think about that intersection of public life and private grief, doesn't it?
It does.
Brett Gardner spent so many years in the public eye.
He did.
Familiar figure to so many.
Oh, yeah.
And now to hear this incredibly personal and tragic news about his son, it really hits you in a different way.
It does. You see beyond.
Absolutely. And if we connect this to the bigger picture,
it
highlights the vulnerability that even figures we see as strong and successful in their professional lives face in their personal spheres. It's a stark reminder that behind the athlete, the celebrity, there's a family.
Right.
Susceptible to the same heartbreaks as anyone else.
That's such a crucial point.
Yeah.
We often follow these individuals, in the context of their careers, their achievements, their public personas.
Sure.
And this news brings us face to face with the human being behind that.
Right.
And, the report itself, as we've noted, doesn't go into any details.
About the nature of Miller's illness or where the family was vacationing.
Right.
It's very much centered on the announcement itself.
And in a way, that lack of detail amplifies the core message, doesn't it?
I think it does.
It's about the loss, the tragedy that has befallen this family.
Yeah.
The specifics, while we might be naturally curious, don't change the fundamental heartbreak of the situation.
They don't. You're right. It keeps the focus exactly where it should be on the family and their loss.
Yeah.
Brett Gardner was such a constant presence with the Yankees for so long.
He was.
Many of us who followed baseball, you've seen his kids growing up in the periphery.
Right.
And to hear this news about Miller,
it's tough.
It's truly difficult to process.
It is. And this raises a question, though, perhaps one we can't fully answer.
Okay.
What does it mean for a family in the public eye to share something so intensely personal?
Right.
It's a brave and undoubtedly painful decision.
It is. It really does prompt that thought. There's a level of vulnerability in sharing such profound grief with the world.
Yeah.
So as we bring this deep dive into this specific news report to a close, the central point is that former Yankees outfielder Brett Gardner and his wife publicly announced on March 23rd the death of their 14-year-old son, Miller, who became ill during a family vacation. And it's a deeply sad event that resonates beyond the world of baseball.
Of course.
And it reminds us of the unpredictable nature of life and the pain of loss.
It's a moment that calls for empathy and understanding.
Absolutely.
And, the report is brief.
Yeah.
But the impact of this news is significant.
It is.
And our thoughts are certainly with the Gardner family during this incredibly difficult time.
This news, shared in the way it was, with its limited details yet profound impact, really makes you consider a lot.
It does.
What are your initial reflections on hearing something so personal shared in such a public way? What does it bring to mind for you?
Well, I think, it really makes you think about, I mean, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
Really, I think it just makes me think about, how precious life is. And how quickly things can change.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's a reminder to cherish the time that we have with our loved ones.
Yeah.
And to, never take anything for granted.
That's so true.
Because you never know what tomorrow's going to bring.
You really don't.
So, I think that's what it makes me think about more than anything.
Yeah, those are really good thoughts.
Thanks.
And I think that's a good place to leave it for our listener.
I agree.
To just really reflect on this news and think about what it means to them. And you know how they feel about this kind of thing.
Right.
So,
Okay.
Thanks so much for bringing this to my attention.
Got it.
And,
Okay.
We'll see everybody next time.
Sounds good.